We're breaking down that crazy twist in Jordan Peele's Us. Us dominated the box office this weekend, and whether you loved it or were traumatized by the stylized horror flick, we're pretty sure everyone who saw it will never look at red jumpsuits or in the mirror the same way again. Like any good horror film, Us had a dynamic and mind-boggling twist that audiences are still trying to decipher. So let's dive in and explain what that crazy ending means. Of course, if you haven't seen Us and are planning to, then you might want to get out, because we will be spoiling the hell out of it. Seriously, this is your spoiler warning. Still here? Cool. Let's get into this. As you might remember, Lupita Nyong'o's character Adelaide Wilson is haunted by a childhood confrontation with a creepy doppelganger in a hall of mirrors on the Santa Cruz boardwalk. The experience traumatizes her and leaves her wondering for the rest of her life if the doppelganger is coming for her. When adult Adelaide and her family go on vacation to their summer home in Santa Cruz, her worst fears are realized when they come under attack by evil doubles of their whole family. After the Wilson family fights to escape or defeat their doubles, we find out that it's not just these four that have murderous shadow selves. It's also their next-door neighbors along with the rest of the country. In the final act of the movie, Adelaide's son Jason gets kidnapped by Adelaide's counterpart Red, leading her down into an old rabbit-filled facility below the funhouse. There, Adelaide finds out that the doubles, called the tethered in the film, were an experiment created to control the citizens of the United States. When the experiment was abandoned, the tethered were left to grow increasingly jealous of the lives of their counterparts, which led to their eventual invasion of the surface. Adelaide manages to defeat Red in their final showdown, finds her son, and escapes with her family to rebuild their lives in this new world where the tethered have made their claim on the United States. But of course, things aren't just left all neat and tidy with the hero family making a clean escape. We find out just before the end what really happened to young Adelaide in that funhouse mirror all those years ago. She was actually kidnapped by Red, the tether version of herself, who trapped the original Adelaide below ground and took Adelaide's place in her family, meaning the person we've been rooting for this whole time was actually the soulless tether, and vice versa. The big reveal raises a ton more questions, but it also explains some of the details, like why Red is the only one of the doppelgangers who can speak, and why exactly her voice sounds the way it does. Not only is she the original Adelaide who spent the first several years of her life above ground speaking with other normal Americans, she was also choked by the tether copy Adelaide, who probably damaged her voice box. The film definitely brings out the scares and gory deaths to satisfy horror fans, but it also dives into a ton of social issues, like classism and income inequalities. Jordan Peele has previously said that Us isn't about race, but there are still some threads and themes that touch upon America's socio-political inequalities. But of course, even with all these heady themes woven through the film, it was the twist along with the very last shot of the tethers reenacting Hands Across America that has fans wondering, what does this all mean? Eagle-eyed viewers may remember Adelaide watching a Hands Across America TV commercial at the beginning of the film. Later, when we see her kidnapped and dragged below ground, she's seen chained to a bed and wearing a Hands Across America t-shirt. This original Adelaide, who becomes Red, clings to the idea of this nationwide demonstration, and she organizes the tethered into their own twisted version of it, just with a lot more murder than the original. The last sprawling shot of the chain of tethers holding hands across the country shows that as much as Adelaide would like to forget who she really is and keep living her life of normalcy, that's just not possible. It also reveals that, holy crap, there were millions of these clones living underneath the United States for more than 30 years. So clearly, the ending of Us raises even more questions than the big reveal answers, like how could the government possibly think this clone scheme to control people would work? And why didn't they terminate these tethers when they decided to cancel the program? And if the tethers didn't have souls, how did Adelaide grow up to have a real relationship with her family? Ultimately, while the twist itself is easily explained, the implications of the world built by Jordan Peele are left to interpretation. Even in the scenes where we're given answers, those just led to more questions. The world built by the film's narrative is much larger, and we've only seen a glimpse of it. Who knows what other weird experiments are lurking beneath the surface? So will we ever get answers to these questions, and could we ever return to this world and see how things have shaken out? Well, when asked by Polygon if he would ever return to the world of Us, Jordan Peele replied, "Sure, it's a fun one. There's a lot going on there. The Us-verse. I like that." Of course, if you want even more in-depth analysis on the film, be sure to head on over to Nerdist.com. But what do you folks think? Do you hope to go back to this universe in a sequel? Are you going to watch Jordan Peele's take on the Twilight Zone? And how can any of us really be sure we're not the creepy tethered versions of ourselves? Let us discuss. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and mash that little bell to get notified every time we go live with a show or drop a new video. And if this wasn't enough us for you, check out the latest Nerdist News edition where the cast of Us tells us what us means to us.